Hey, Jess.
Hey,
Hello.
how are you?
How are you? Oh, my camera is terrible. I'm going to shut it off. I'm going to make you a co-host so you can
Hey.
share your presentation. There you go. Now you can share your screen and we can start letting people in. Are you okay? How are you before we start?
Yeah, I'm good.
Excellent. Excellent. Okay. We have 10 people waiting at the moment. We probably have more coming in soon. I will introduce you and then you can start to talk. I will mute myself and others. When people have questions, we can answer them. You can tell if you want them to interrupt you or after. It's completely okay.
How's my audio? Is it okay?
Yes, it's perfect. And I love your accent.
I'll try to remember to talk slowly.
Oh, that's fine. Okay, we're good? Okay, we're gonna admit all of them. Dobar dan svima, da li me čujete?
Čujemo.
Super, čao svima. Ok, ukoliko me neko ne čuje, može da napiše na chat. Ja se nadam da me čujete. Nisam upalio kameru zato što izgleda ovako. Ajde vidi sad bolje. Nije sad dalje mračno, ali dobro. Ok, dobar dan, dobrodošli. Dobar dan, dobrodošli u novi nStarter webinar. Sad ću se prebaciti na engleski jezik. Hello everyone, welcome to the new nStarter webinar. It is my great pleasure to introduce Jess Bailey from United Kingdom. She is a marketing executive. She is also an expert in crowdfunding, and she has a very special presentation for you. She's going to talk about how to develop your target audience into a community and then activate that community later when this crisis is over so they can become your customers. Anyways, Jess, I give you the floor. If anybody has any questions, you can write down or ask her. She will give you more details. Jess, please take your floor.
Okay, hi. If you want to put your video on, you can put your video on. If you want to have it off, you can have it off. I'm hoping that everyone can hear me okay. As I can't see you, I'm going to assume so. Otherwise, it's going to be a really boring webinar for you all. If you have any questions during the whole thing, just write them in the chat and I can try and answer them as we go along. Otherwise, just remember them and we'll have a question and answer session at the end. So first up, I'm just going to share my screen with you so you guys can all see the slides.
Yes, we have one raised hand, apparently. Who is that? QCOMBTD.
Do you want to ask a question, the raised hand?
Or was that just a test? We have no feedback.
Okay, I'll share my screen.
Okay.
Okay, so you can all see the screen now?
Yes.
Cool. Okay, so basically, obviously, coronavirus is a giant mess situation where it's really hard to sell things because everyone is very concerned about money and all of those things that's going on. So what we really want to do right now is just build a community of customers ready for when we want to launch our campaign. By that point, we obviously know that we've got customers ready and waiting in the wings. So my most read article that I've ever written is called Crowdfunding, How You Can Raise £1 Million from an Email List of Zero. So in general, what I do is build crowds for crowdfunding campaigns, but it's very similar to just a general sales campaign and customers that are out there. Now, This is the most read article. It's also hilarious because the first line simply says, you can't. With any sales, you know that you've got to go down a sales funnel. So you've got awareness at the top, engagement in the middle, and then buying at the very bottom. And you lose people on every aspect, which is why it's a triangle and not a rectangle. So right now, we can't do the buying part. We need to wait for coronavirus to blow over or for things to get a bit more stable. But what we can really work on is the awareness and the engagement sections of that triangle, so that as soon as everything gets a bit more normalized, we can then go straight into the buying, and we don't need to wait and go down that funnel. Some businesses, they won't take advantage of this time, and then when everyone gets back to sales, they'll be right at the top, and it'll take them much longer to get their customers coming again. So to make it sustainable, like there are obviously a lot of people that you can pay to throw money at Facebook ads and everything, but we really want you to build this up organically so that those crowds and those people stay with you forever. When people are aware of what you're doing, I tend to call them a crowd, because a crowd is not too much of an engaged group of people. They don't have that much binding them together. But once they've gone further down that level, they can really become a community, because at that point, people can really start to engage. They start to have a stronger connection with what you're doing. Then at the bottom, obviously that's where the money comes in, cha-ching. That's where we get them to be customers. Ooh. Yeah, okay. So that's where we get them to be customers. Obviously can't get there yet. So the goals from this webinar are really to understand a bit more about crowd psychology, analyze your current crowd, define your ideal customers, expand your crowd, turn them into a community, and really prepare them to become customers when you can. So with everything that I'm going to talk about in this hour, it's obviously quite generic, but really think about, okay, with my own business, with my own project, how does that relate to what I'm doing? Because it's going to work the same for pretty much all industries. If it doesn't, let me know, because it'll be one of the first I've seen. So nowadays we really live in a belief economy, and the crowd is therefore so important. So I don't know about you, but everyone over here in England really cares about ratings for restaurants or cafes or bars or whatever. So I just went onto Google and I looked at fish restaurants, because I live by the sea, so clearly the fish should be good here, right? And there's one that has a 4.9 rating, and then the worst I could find was a 2.0 rating. Like realistically, why would you ever go to a 2.0 rating restaurant? Like you're probably going to get food poisoning. You know, I walk past this one pretty much every day. It was on my commute to my office. It doesn't look bad from the outside. If I didn't look at the reviews, I may have gone there. But as soon as looking at the reviews, automatically I know, two-star review from 169 people, I'm definitely not risking it to go there. So the belief economy is at the absolute important at the moment. It builds up your credibility and trust, having all of these people hopefully say nice things about you. And it allows you to multiply your voice without having to do that much work yourself. Just give a great service and obviously let the other people do the work for you. I don't know whether you guys are aware of this, but I'll send over the link just in case you're not. But there was a really good documentary from Vice on how to become TripAdvisor's #1 fake restaurant. So this guy basically did not set up a restaurant at all, but made loads of fake reviews, made it look like he had a restaurant. He had journalists on waiting to come to his restaurant. At the end, he set it up in his garden and he used frozen microwave meals that cost £1. And everyone was like, oh my God, this was the best experience ever. He totally made it up, which shows also that crowds, you know, when fake, can obviously be wrong, but it just shows the importance of the crowd. No one had ever eaten at that restaurant. No one had ever seen that restaurant, but they believed it because the multiplying of the voices was saying how great it is. So that's why it's so important. But please don't lie. Please do it correctly and honestly. Don't tell them I said that. So crowd psychology is all about, you know, what does your audience want? If you've got two restaurants, one's completely empty and one's quite busy with people in it, and they both sell the same food, which one are you more likely to go into? Chances are the one that's got the people in it. The one that's empty, you're going to look at as a bit of resistance to think, ooh, is this a good restaurant? Why am I going to go into it? On the other hand, crowd psychology is also about limited edition. You know, again, you've all bought things online, probably, you've all bought things in life. And when you see those last chances, those limited stocks, those sold out, you get that drive to buy it now so you don't miss out on the opportunity. So that's what's really important about crowd psychology. They want to feel like they're getting something that's going to run out soon. They want to feel like they're part of a community of people which have already bought into it. No one wants to be the first person to buy your product, because that's really a risk, and they're the first one to then start the trend. Everyone wants to follow that trend. So it's the same with crowdfunding. 3 campaigns here. If you were going to give to one of them, probably you're likely to give to the one at the bottom, if not the one on the middle, but you're really unlikely to give to that one at the top. But not even your mum cares enough to give you money, so why should I care enough to give you money for that? So here's the video, and I want to play the video. If you could, like, if your video is on, if you can nod, if you can hear the sound, then that would be great once I click play, so I know that you can hear it. But this one is all about leadership lessons, and it's exactly the same for building a crowd and building a community. So actually, let's just play it now. Can you hear the sound?
Movement happens start to finish in under 3 minutes and dissect some lessons.
Wait a sec. Okay, let me. Okay, I'm going to turn the sound off. So you can see here, there's a crazy man dancing in a field. No one ever wants to be the first crazy man dancing in a field. At the moment, everyone's probably having their picnics looking at him like he's a right weirdo. Admittedly, by the end of Corona lockdown, we'll probably all be dancing in fields. Now, someone has come to join him. So he's no longer one weirdo dancing in a field. He's got a friend. So at this point, people are probably thinking, okay, this is interesting. Maybe I want to join in. But I'm still not sure because, you know, maybe he knows that guy from previous days. They carry on dancing in the field like weirdos. This is not the sound that is accompanying the actual video. There's really bad music that I'm saving you from. At this point, a third person comes to join in, and that's really important. Now there's 3 of them, so 3 is definitely becoming some sort of movement. He's got traction with his new dancing crew, and they're starting to take up more and more space. Now more people have come. More people keep coming. This means that very soon you're going to be the weirdo that sat on the grass not dancing. At this point, it feels okay to dance. You're not going to be stared at like a crazy person. You can actually go and join the dancing group. And suddenly it's become quite a community that actually people want to go and join because they seem to be the cool kids now rather than the crazy person. So I'm going to stop it there before everyone goes and dances on the field. So what that shows you, other than a very fun video of people dancing in a field, is really that a community building is all about the ripple effect. You can't build a community just from cold emails, cold messaging. You've got to start it, and then you've got to ripple out. And the way that you ripple out at the beginning is really through your friends and family that will come and dance like an idiot with you, or will give you a 5-star review, even if they've not actually bought your product, and will start making comments on your posts in order to allow other people to start doing that as well. as we know, the world is 6 degrees of separation. Everyone is fewer than 6 steps from everyone. So really think about who you want to be in your crowd, and you can work your way out there to get that person. So whether it's a celebrity, whether it's press coverage that you want, or whether it's endorsements, the possibilities are out there. So first up, you've got to identify your own crowd. So really thinking about who is in your crowd. And it's not just generic, you know, Serbian women. It's very different, but you really need to go into as much detail as possible. Really build up the persona of your target market. And obviously you're going to have more than one. Probably you're going to have like 3, 5, something like that. And that's your target customer. But once you understand all of these elements about them, then obviously you can actually market to them correctly. So first up, looking at who is currently in your crowd. And that's, you know, your Facebook friends, your Facebook following, your current newsletter, email list, your current sales buyers, those sorts of people. Who are they? And then also, how does that differ to who you want it to be? Because there will probably be some similarities and some differences between them. I'll just give you an example. This is a community that I lead in Sussex in the UK, and it's basically an adventure community for people that love the outside, walking, hiking, canoeing, all of those crazy things, camping out, etc., etc. So I just went into our back end and I saw that in reality, we have more women than men that are part of our community. And the age range is mostly between 25 and 54. Obviously, it's a Sussex-based group, so you know most of them are coming from the UK. But surprisingly, a lot of them are coming from outside of Sussex. They're coming from London, but within Sussex, they're coming from the city which I live in. So it's probably not surprising that they're mostly women and they're mostly from my city, because that's actually my personal networks as well. And obviously, I'm attracting the type of people that I am like. Probably we need to get some more men leading the group as well, so that we can get more men interested in the outside, because theoretically they're probably the group which are more interested in the outside. London has a high population of people interested in our group, yeah, because they all want to get out of the city, and we're probably the closest place outside the city with countryside and the ocean that they can come. So that's not really surprising. But this means that when I'm creating marketing or I'm creating events, I'm going to make events which my audience wants. So I'm probably going to make sure that the events are located in Brighton, because any other city that I do it in, we're probably going to get a smaller turnout. And obviously, luckily, 25 to 54 is quite a broad age range. We'll probably have a selection of, you know, pub events, cafe events, and outdoor events as well. Also from our Facebook analysis, I can see we've got 497 members and 456 of them are active, and that the best times to post are Fridays and Tuesdays after lunch till the late evening. Obviously, that means I'm then going to give them that content when they're most likely to be online, which obviously is Fridays, Tuesdays, and in the afternoons. I can also see that our top posts are the ones with the most engagement, that have crowdsourced opinions or different questions to get everyone's opinions, everyone's advice on certain topics. Again, I'm just going to continue to do those sorts of posts because I know that they're going to work. I know that my audience likes them and wants them. If videos are not performing well, I'm obviously not going to waste my time putting videos out there, because that's not going to engage my community. They might see it, but they're clearly not going to engage with it. So really what you've got to do is think about your own groups, your own pages like this, and work out this analysis yourself in order to work out who that target market currently is that you've got. Obviously, I hope that this is not news, but not everyone is going to be your customer. You've really got to work out who that customer is going to be. So who do you want to interact with? Where do they hang out online? What content do they respond to? And then what motivates them? So those are the things we're definitely going to focus on now. When you're also looking at this, the easiest question to ask yourself first is, in response to yourself, who are you the target audience of? Like, what brands or companies do you think, you know, really come after you? And this isn't so much like Facebook advertising. Just think to yourself, who are you the target audience of? Then when you're looking for your own company, use that existing data and again, give as much detail as possible, as I've mentioned, focusing on who that person is, what they like, and why. So here's just an example. Obviously, who, age, gender, country, city, job, what are their giving habits, their backing habits, their sales habits, what's their family status, what's their housing like, what's their income, and then why, what do they like, what do they dislike, what are their behaviors. You want to create that for your customer that you've got now and that customer that you want in the future so that you can see where those lines marry up. Anyone got any questions on working out who their target market is? If you've got any questions, obviously just write them in the chat box. So when you want to do, after you figured out who that person is, you then want to figure out where the hell they are online. Where are they? So here's just a huge selection of different places. But you're going to think you're going to get different people. Different people use Facebook to LinkedIn, and they use them for different reasons. Different people use Reddit, then use TikTok. Different people search hashtags. Some people just read the newspaper. Again, you don't need to be everywhere. You just need to be where your target market is. And again, a lot of people come to me and they're like, yeah, I want to be on Instagram. And I'm like, your target market is not on Instagram. In the UK, if your target market is like men aged 45 to 60, not on Instagram. Okay, why are we wasting our time creating those marketing content if they're just not there? So again, really important to think about that. We then need to look at what content. So once you're on the channel, what content are they most responding to? So again, think about yourself. What content do you most respond to? Do you prefer videos or do you prefer ebooks? Do you prefer reading case studies and testimonials, or do you actually prefer looking at memes or reading blogs? Again, checking out what type of content your audience wants, and then just keep on giving them that content. At the beginning, that's obviously a lot of experimenting, and then monitoring and checking the likes, the comments, the views, and then taking forward what was working. You then need to think about what motivates them. So this is all about that call to action, which at one stage is going to be, please buy my product. But right now it's probably about, you know, giving me your email address, or signing up, or taking part in an online webinar, or, you know, a competition, things like that. So in general, these are the reasons what motivates people. So some examples. So need. At the moment, I would say Deliveroo, Uber Eats is a company that's motivated by everyone's need. We all need food that we don't want to cook, and the only way we can get that at the moment is through delivery. Equally, that could be seen as convenience. And another one of convenience at the moment, especially in the UK, don't know about Serbia, is like vegetable boxes, because no one wants to queue up for the supermarket. So you can just get a box of vegetables delivered to your house. That's definitely convenience. Then if we think about value, I would say some really good companies that are adding value during this time are Pret a Manger, which is a coffee shop chain, and they are giving a lot of their recipes online so people can cook them as well from home. Then you've obviously got things like price, emotion, charities obviously going down emotion. Fear, insurance companies tend to use fear to motivate people to buy. And then you've got things like power and status, and fear of missing out and exclusivity, which I think are really taken by Apple products or sustainable products. They're really going with the status theme or the exclusivity theme. As well as that, you've got community. For community, I could only think of things like shoes, which is weird because I hate shoes really. But like Vans and Doc Martens and Converse, that's a real community that they're building. They're building some type of lifestyle. that people are buying into.
Sorry, we have a question now.
Yeah, I've just seen it. So what if your target market is on Instagram and it's a group of big variety of age from 20 to 50 men and women? If you are, for example, a sports clothes brand, what is the best way to find buyers in a group like that? Or just focus them with the rest of the crowd? So what I would do for that is I'd think about different types of content for those different audiences. So not everyone's going to see every piece of content that you do, but I'd think, okay, today I'm going to put content out, you know, for women 20 to 30 sports clothes wear. And then maybe the next day you're going to put content out like older men sports clothes wear, and then practice it like that. So you are speaking to like a subset of your current audience rather than trying to find everyone. Because if you put it out for everyone, everyone's just going to think, oh, that's the person next to me. That's not my responsibility. So then focus it in those ways. Hopefully that helps. Ooh. So my sneaky tip, if you're struggling with any of this, is really to check your competitors. Go and look at all of their marketing and then break it down. Who are they trying to talk to? Where are they locating themselves online? What content does their crowd best respond to? And what seems to be motivating their crowd? Because if they're a few years older than you, in terms of obviously like business, not actual older than you, then you can really see what their marketing is doing and how it's working. And then obviously kind of just like copy what they're doing, obviously for your own audiences. But if they've started to see that pattern work, then it probably is going to work for you too. So once you've started doing that, you then think, right, I need to expand my crowd. I need to make it even bigger now. And you're going to do that organically, because I hate paying for things that I don't think I have to pay for. So let's figure out how to do this organically. And again, that's going to make it sustainable in the long run. So there's so many different ways of expanding your crowd organically. And again, once you've got that target market defined, it makes it so much easier. So first up, you're going to be joining all of these different expanding crowd ways, which we'll look at, but I don't want you to start engaging with them yet. First up, join, attend events, things like that, and observe the trends. Observe what is going on, what the ambiance is like in the group, what the posts are like, you know, what everyone is talking about. From that, you can see, is this going to be a group that's worth my time, or is it going to be a bit of a waste? So for example, on Eventbrite, if I'm having a tech business and I'm focusing on getting girls into tech, I might want to look on Eventbrite. Obviously, all of those events are going to be online now and not in real life, so you can really expand your target market. Just go to some of those events, see what the feel is like, see whether you think they're going to be useful or not to speak at later on, etc., etc. Obviously, Meetup is another opportunity. Yeah, my first advice is to find friends who would comment on the posts to create a ripple, because no one wants to be the first commenter. Even I posted today in the Yes Tribe Sussex, and I just messaged my friend and said, hey, I posted, can you comment first? Because then after that, I got loads of comments, but everyone's a bit worried to be the first person to comment. Meetup, obviously, you guys know it. I think that's how you found out about this. A great way to expand the crowd. Social media groups, again, definitely joining and checking them out, observing silently before you start engaging. Writing for other publications, writing on Medium, writing on guest blogs. If you do that, you can kind of parasite off their audiences, because their audiences are similar to yours, but not competing, and you can bring them over to your crowd and your community. Of course, then you need to have a landing page on your website, just collecting those email addresses in order to build up that crowd. And then lastly, I recommend using Google Alerts. Google Alerts means you can see the blogs, the websites, the newspapers, etc., which are talking about what you're talking about. And then eventually you get emails like this. Then eventually you can start to then create content for those publications in the type of format that your audience loves and wants, and obviously get it published. I create this spreadsheet, I collect all of their details, I follow them on LinkedIn, Twitter, etc., so that I can keep an eye on them when I need them, when I need to send it out. With this though, I really can't stress enough, like, set yourself goals. And obviously, you know, SMART goals, set yourself realistic and attainable goals. You can build your crowd to affinity, but you're never going to feel actually like you've made a dent in it unless you really set some numbers on it. So how many newsletter signups do you want to get in the next month? How many new Facebook likes do you want to get? How many posts do you want to be putting out a day, a week, those sorts of things? Really put numbers on it, because otherwise it's going to feel like a never-ending task, and then that's just going to really demotivate you. So once your crowd is defined, and then you've also enlarged it through joining all of those groups, etc., you then, once you've observed the trends, you then create the content, engage with the audience, and monitor the results. That way, you're then testing all of these things which you've learned. You've got your target market, you know what they want, where they hang out, and what motivates them. Now is the time to be pushing that out there to your expanded crowd, which should in turn turn them into a community, so long as it's working. Obviously, if it's not working, we're going to change it. But yeah, give your audience the content they want, on the channel they want it, in the format they want, at the time of day that they want it, and then monitor those results. And now's your time for experimentation, because you can't really be selling anything. So now's a great time to mess up and obviously not lose out on sales. So really go crazy. Think, do you know what, actually, I've never tried memes with my audience. Let's see if it works. If it doesn't, delete it, you know, hide the evidence, or just leave it there and realize that that was an experiment. So if it works, keep going and think, how can I make this blog even better? How can I continue making blogs even more valuable? Or if it doesn't work, think, okay, that didn't really work. Do I need to change the header? Do I need to change the imagery? Or do I just need to scrap it completely? Those sorts of things. Now you've got the perfect time to try all of this, and obviously pivot, so that when we get back into some sense of normality, you're ready with the content that's going to work, and your crowd has started to engage with it already. At the moment, obviously, we're not selling anything, so we really want to add value. So some questions that you want to ask yourself, and probably go and check what your competitors are doing in this field too. But what are your audience's challenges right now, and how can you provide that free assistance to them? What can you offer them that's different? Because let's be honest, we're probably all going to be very fed up of Zoom calls sooner rather than later. And also, how can you engage with them in those comments, on calls, etc., etc. And how can you make that innovative and stand out? So here are just 3 examples. So this was Pret a Manger, and this is also Wagamama at the bottom. They're restaurants. People are missing their food. People are fed up of cooking all the time, and they're missing going to their favorite coffee shops or restaurants. So both of these companies are now giving their recipes in order to make your own food at home. Now, this is probably not really going to damage them in the long run, because as soon as we can all get back out again, we're going to be going to their restaurants. We're probably not going to be making it as good as they are. Equally, on the top right-hand corner of the screen, we've got the Body Coach, who is a personal trainer, online personal trainer and cookbook star. And he started doing PE lessons with children every morning. So every morning at 9 a.m. on his YouTube channel, he gets over 1 million views. But basically, yeah, what are your problems right now? You've got kids at home, so they've probably got way too much energy and are just annoying you. You probably also need to work a lot as well. So great, put the kids in front of the YouTube for this hour, get them to do exercise, burn all of that energy from them. Obviously, it's going to do him wonders in the long run in terms of his brand and his sales of his cookbooks and his actual fitness plans. But at the moment, he's doing all of this for free in order to rack up that bigger community. So what should we think about going on and doing next? What we should think about going on and doing next, analyzing your existing crowd, going and creating your personas, going and hunting down those target customers. And then once you've done that, create the content, engage with your audience, and monitor those results. And obviously, repeat it when it's working. So my top tip really there is not to rush it. Ooh. Don't rush it. We're not getting out of lockdown, tomorrow. It's going to take time. It's going to take time before people feel safe enough and secure enough to start buying again. So now is a perfect opportunity that we've been given to experiment and to trial all of these things out. Embrace it and actually, go a bit crazy, try different things and see what works, because we're never really going to be in a situation again where we can afford to take this time to really experiment rather than just miss out on sales. Right now, we're probably not feeling as though we're personally missing out on sales, because unfortunately, everyone is. So that's all. If you've got any questions, then just either put your microphone on or share them in the chat section. That's my email address if you've got any other questions that you want to follow up with after this. But otherwise, I will turn my screen sharing off, maybe. Yep, here.
Okay, before we start with the questions, Jess, thank you very much. This was really, really, really good. You're going to share this presentation with us, yes, and I'm going to share it with you on our SlideShare account and post it probably on our Meetup page where you all RSVP'd to this webinar, and then there you can find exactly this presentation. Also, I used this opportunity, and I'm sorry for a little bit of not self-promotion, but the promotion of Business Incubator that organizes this webinar. And you can find in the chat room some blog posts we just posted about some of these topics if they might be helpful. Also, this webinar was organized with the help from our friends at the Swiss Contact, and they have a small request. They need you to fill out this form, basically not just but the participants, if you can, just to see if you would recommend this webinar to your colleague or a friend. It only takes about a couple of seconds, so you can do this now, you can do this at the end. I'd like to thank you all for coming, and now you can ask your questions. We'll give them a second. Okay, maybe I'll start with questions and then they can jump in. I have a question about segmentation. There was a question here in the group chat: what do you have a broader target audience? What if you do segmentation for that target audience? There's broader, you can do smaller segments and then focus on each and every one of them. Do you have experience with that?
Yeah, so I think once you've identified the target audiences, then obviously segmenting the content that's going out to them is a good idea in terms of then seeing what content's going to work. Even when you've got a big target audience, you can still segment them into smaller personas in order to create marketing for each of those. The worry is that when content is too broad, it doesn't really speak to anyone because it's trying to speak to everyone. So what's better is you split that into 4 subgroups, let's say for an example, and then you're at least speaking to those 4 different groups. Maybe there are some people that flip between the groups that don't feel they're spoken to, but in reality, you're going to get a higher number of sales and engagement with those 4 groups than you would have if you just tried to cover everyone.
Okay, thank you. Now anyone else who has a question can join in. You can write it down, you can turn on your microphones, depends on your preferences. Don't be shy. Apparently that's it.
Cool. Make sure you fill the form in, because once the webinar ends, will the form disappear, the link?
Yes. So I would like to ask everyone to open the forms now. So when we close it down, you can still fill it out. Okay, last call for any questions. You can write it down as I say these final words, basically. Jess, thank you very much. It was very interesting. It was very good. I love the presentation, given that I'm also in marketing area myself. So it was very good. I learned a lot. I hope everyone else did as well. Thank you very much, and I hope you are safe and that you can come to Serbia once this is all over.
Oh my God, yeah, I'm so happy to be doing some work with Serbian startups again, but also it makes me miss Serbia too much.
For those of you who don't know, Jess also came to Serbia and worked with our startups.
Yeah, thank you very much for having me.
Absolutely. Thank you very much, and bye.
Bye.